Welcome to the second show in a series, a long series, I hope, of a televised Selectmen's Corner. The first of which was with myself and Frank Panoffi, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. And I am here today as a Selectman, John Kennan, with our new school superintendent, Dr. Richard Canfield. And I'd like to welcome Richard to the show.
Thank you, John. My pleasure to be here.
And thank you for coming. And my interest in having Dr. Canfield be a guest today is to talk about community, the sense of community, the community standard, and how vital that is in everything we do. In essence, the fabric of all of our efforts, municipal, educational, and what have you.
That's right. That's right. You know, it is kind of interesting because as I look at all of the various things that a school system is responsible for, I also believe it's critical that we give our young people, right from kindergarten right up through 12th grade, a sense of what community is really all about, what it really means to be part of a community, particularly a caring community, one that supports each other, young and old, where we all work together to achieve what's best, not only for the schools, but for the community at large.
If you don't mind, I did watch the school committee meeting the other night. I was quite amazed at the thoroughness of your 2020 vision.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty extraordinary. And two words resonated extremely, profoundly with me, and that's community confidence. I'd like you to comment on community confidence.
Right. Well, it's interesting because part of what I felt I wanted to put out for the school committee and for the town of Sandwich was a sense of what was a reflection of my core values, what I believed would be important in order to move things forward for the schools and for the town. And among the core values was the recognition that building relational trust is critical. And I believe that's true in any kind of an organization. I know for everyone who's watching today that is involved in a workplace knows that you can only do your best work when there's a sense of trust that exists within that organization. So building relational trust and sustaining it over time is not only important within the organization, but when we're talking about a school system and its relationship with its community, it needs to be expanded upon. So the whole trust piece involves things like integrity, also a willingness to be open and listen to diverse opinions and diverse viewpoints. As I say, it's always easy to listen to those folks that are in agreement with you. It's a little more challenging when you disagree. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, it's important that you listen honestly and sincerely and recognize that their dissenting viewpoint, if you pay close attention, may help you avoid going down the wrong road, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I'm very mindful of those things, but I also know part of the relational trust piece is that people need to have confidence in the competency of those who are leading, whether they're leading because they've been hired to do that, as is the case of a superintendent of schools. The school committee hired me to come here to do a job, and people have to have confidence in my competency, but they also have to have trust in the competency of those who lead as elected officials, whether it's school committee or the selectmen, that we are competent, and we know what we're doing, and our heart's in the right place to do the right thing for the community at large.
I'd like to share with the viewers and yourself, Dr. Canfield, a couple of excerpts from the visioning statement of the Smarter Cape Summit. There are members of the Smarter Cape, and that's the Cape Cod Chamber, the Cape Cod Commission, the Cape Cod Economic Development Council, the Cape Cod Tech Council, and Open Cape. I also sit on the board of Open Cape, and one of the offshoots of the Smarter Cape Partnership is a goal and for the evolution into an intelligent community. And two of the tenets are as follows. Smarter economy builds on current strengths while boldly pursuing growth and diversification of the full-year economy to create high-paying jobs based on innovation, technology, and a knowledge workforce. Thriving local agriculture, fishing, aquaculture, healthcare, retail, cultural and creative sectors, along with an extended visitor season providing a strong economic foundation, ubiquitous high-capacity fixed and mobile broadband access, which opens doors to new economic opportunities. And immediately after that is smarter education. Smarter education harnesses and engages the energy of our youth and the knowledge and the experience of our adults to create a knowledge workforce that competes in the global economy. Robust collaborations between government, business, and academic and research communities catalyze innovative partnerships for research, product, and services development and the creation of new businesses. Town government, education, they're not mutually exclusive, are they?
They certainly are not.
Economic development.
They certainly are not, because, you know, as I sit here today, as we both sit here, you know, I'm very much aware that our young people that, as we're speaking, are in classes at Sandwich High School and those that are in our K-8s, at some point in time, they will be the ones that will fill perhaps our seats in terms of leadership roles within the community, within corporations. And so we look to school them as well as we can to be able to continue a great American tradition of being innovative and being able to lead in a variety of disciplines and functions within our society, whether that's the medical field or in the fields of law or governance. So as you're speaking about, you know, that mission statement, I'm very moved by it because I believe it fits so well with where I would like to see the school system head over the next several years as part of that 2020 vision. When I spoke to the school committee the other evening, and in doing so, thanks to our broadcasting capabilities, communicating with the community at large, there's an opportunity to really share that vision and to really talk about what does 21st century teaching and learning really mean? What does it really look like? And it's been pretty well defined through the Partnership for 21st Century Learning. I had the opportunity for some years to be very involved with some of the corporate leaders here in America. As many people know, I came here from Connecticut, from Fairfield County, and through a collaboration, basically a business and education roundtable at the Aldrich Museum in Ridgefield, we met on a regular basis to talk about 21st century workforce needs. And the reason why we gathered was to consider the question of how can K-12 education contribute in the long run to building and sustaining an innovative workforce. It has been the hallmark of our economy here in America, and we have many very proud accomplishments and traditions, but we can't rest on our laurels. It's become much more global, much more competitive. As part of that roundtable, we had executives from IBM, from Xerox, from General Electric. General Electric's corporate offices happen to be in my former hometown in Fairfield, Connecticut. But to realize that they no longer consider themselves to be just an American corporation. They are a global international corporation, and they will hire the very best people they can find, whether they are from America or whether from India or China or Ireland or any other country that has gained an understanding of the need to compete and compete well in what will be required. So when we consider, you know, what does it really mean for 21st century teaching and learning, the technology gives us an amazing capacity to really reach out and make connections globally for important exchanges that can help, hopefully not so much to have to fight another battle, another war, but I'd love to see us take on the battle to cure cancer, to deal with heart disease, to really grapple with some of the big questions of our era, which our young people will inherit. What to do as we have an aging population, and we're looking at issues with Social Security, Medicare. These are the issues that we will look to today's young people to help us resolve. And so as superintendent, it's my contention that we must not ever turn our back on their needs to educate them well, because we need them. we need them to be there for us, to support us as we wrestle with these big issues. But the technology that you're talking about, you know, gives us great capacity to reach out. I had the opportunity to visit what's called an EDGE lab. It happened to be at the University of Connecticut's Stanford branch. And that is a collaboration, a partnership between the EDGE comes from education, and the GE is from General Electric, GE Capital. And when we visited that facility, it was absolutely remarkable to me to see what you can do in a truly state-of-the-art environment where you're in a room that is basically from floor to ceiling and wrapped around a high-definition video that allows folks to be in a classroom at UConn Storrs campus and conversing with people in Stamford, Connecticut on some of the big topics of the day, not only for higher education, but for corporations. And it's not only supported by GE, but by others. And it was amazing to see the quality of the sound. You really felt like you were together in the same room, and you had that distance. Now you have the capacity to create that not just between Storrs, Connecticut and Stamford, Connecticut, but across states, across America, and frankly, globally. And the potential for the exchange of thoughts and ideas I find absolutely remarkable. So I look forward to the efforts that are being made here on the Cape, and that the canal doesn't have to be a barrier, and it's not just about the bridges, but it really is about the fiber optics that reaches out and allows us to cross over and make connections all around the world.
So, if I may, everything we're talking about really just kind of narrowly focuses on the municipal and educational bandwidth, if you will, our capacity to understand critical thinking, application on the part of town leaders, you know, whether it's on the municipal side and schools, to understand and to apply ourselves in a very critical and comprehensive way for our needs across the community, whether they're plowing services like we talked about at our previous Selectmens meeting, educating our children, etc. But at the same time, we're reaching out on this new frontier for all of us, embracing this future, but we have this really unbelievable community that we live in, that we know now, with all these historical attributes, and we can't abandon our past either. And I want to know how we can reconcile with that. And how do we balance that with the kids, with the children? Right.
Well, you know, it's very interesting to me, because in coming to Sandwich, I recognize the charm and the history of this community, which is a tremendous asset. The public school system, through its facilities, is making, will continue to make every effort to support certainly what happens as far as tourism is concerned within Sandwich. We have a number of events that will draw people, townwide events that will draw people here to Sandwich, that helps our businesses and the public schools. We really do open up our facilities to help folks in that way. But beyond just the charm and the history of the community, we want our students to understand that. We have many wonderful partnerships, and I believe as the new superintendent we need to do more to communicate with the community at large how well we do in connecting with resources here in town. Our folks are very gracious on both the town and the school side. Many of our students get out to participate in activities that are sponsored by the various museums here in town, and we look to build on those relationships. The other evening I shared my vision that includes what I hope will become a hallmark for the Sandwich Public Schools and for this community. You mentioned earlier on in our conversation about the need to identify, resources and to use them wisely. And so as I step back and look at some of the unique qualities of Cape Cod itself, where you have some very unique ecosystems, some very unique habitats, but also in terms of resources, giving our students opportunities to explore hands-on science and be involved in a variety of ways. I know that there is a commission that looks at water quality here in town. When I received the invitation, did we have someone from the school system that would like to be a part of that? I sent that right on to the high school principal. We have a student that's involved with it. And I think sometimes we sell our kids short. You know, historically, I think back to the founding days of this community, being the oldest one on the Cape, not me personally, but the town itself, the age of this community. I recognize that we had at one point in time young people that we would say today are middle school age who had responsibilities for the survival of their families. Whether it was chores relative to farming or, you know, certainly the agricultural side or aquacultural side, whether it was fishing. We had young people that did work that was vital to the survival of their families. People ask me today, are today's kids as capable? And the answer is yes. Our society has progressed to a point in time where people don't tend to have to worry so much about having a roof over their heads or clothing to wear in cold weather or food to eat or medical care. That's a good thing that we've made those kinds of advances. But our kids are very capable of great responsibility. We've got some wonderful thinkers, some very impressive students in our K-12 system. As I interact with some of our high school students, I often meet with members of the leadership corps at the high school. They are so bright, so articulate, so self-confident. They're really, really an impressive group of young people. Perhaps at some point you'd love to have a conversation with them here to talk about some of their insights. So as we look to at what are some of those capabilities and connections, when I talk about STEM, which people are now coming to understand is a national model that represents science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which are key areas that will drive our economy in terms of those higher paying jobs that can be most meaningful to our young people and to the economy of the Commonwealth. We need to give those kids opportunities and special kinds of experiences. Education will not look the way that it did and should not look the way that it did when perhaps we were going through high school or grade school. The technology has changed. Our knowledge of what happens in the world, it grows exponentially every single day as new discoveries are made and new literature is created and new art, and there's so much for them to learn about and to understand. And so as we begin to reach out and build connections, I believe a hallmark for the Sandwich Public Schools can be built around science. And I've had opportunities to talk to some of our colleagues at Mass Maritime that describes themselves as a STEM academy. We've had some of our local organizations right here in Sandwich that are focused on science, that after they've heard about my interest have reached out to me and have said, we would love to form a partnership with the Sandwich Public Schools. We have some alumni groups in town from some very prestigious colleges and universities, some that have a very strong focus on science and engineering and mathematics that are saying, thankfully, we are so pleased that we have a superintendent that wants to build those kinds of connections and give our kids that kind of experience. And I believe the excitement around that will also generate a sense among our parents that there's so much to be offered in the Sandwich Public Schools, that this is where we'd like our kids to be. We can find it, what we're looking for, and we can sustain it over time. That will be our challenge in difficult budget times. But we have choices to make, and we really are at a tipping point here in Sandwich with the public school system. We have the opportunity to really create something excellent that the town can be proud of, can serve the town well, can make it be attractive, can help local businesses, because when we keep kids in town, we also keep their parents here in terms of their spending in local restaurants and shops, because they're not leaving the Sandwich to go other places on the Cape where the kids might be in school. So we want to keep them here, and to do that, we want to give them truly a high quality program. The give back to the community, I also believe, beyond our local businesses, has to do with property values. And I know sometimes people raise their eyebrows about that, but the reality is, as I met with the realtors in town, invited me to attend one of their meetings, had a great session with them, and heard what I expected I would hear, that property values comparably from one town to another. You take a standard Cape or a Colonial from in one town or another, same size parcel of land, and same, even if they were designed by the same architect and same builder, the true value includes the services that are connected to that property. And at the forefront of that, for families that might be coming into Sandwich that are interested in those 4-bedroom colonials that already exist, and some that are on the market that have those for sale signs, I have to tell you that the families that they hope to attract are looking, number one, for quality schools. It's not to diminish the importance of all of the other services in town. And as superintendent, you'll find me incredibly respectful of that. I have a fiduciary responsibility to every citizen here in town. I now too am a taxpayer, and oddly enough, I welcomed my bill when I got it because I was proud to write out my first check to pay taxes here in Sandwich, and to recognize that I'm contributing in many ways. There may be things that I don't make use of. I don't make use of the golf course or the marina, but I'm proud to share in the cost of that for those people who use those facilities. In the same way, I recognize there are folks out there that may not have children in the schools, but we need them also to help us fund a future for not only our children, but a reputation for excellence in education in Sandwich that will, in fact, contribute to those property values. And as those property values rise, it also, higher values also mean higher money that's coming in to the town through its tax collection. No one likes to pay more in taxes, but the reality is it's part of life. And when we talk about community, and I had the chance to share with one of our principals some conversation of some research by Dr. Deborah Stone, who's a professor at Dartmouth. She wrote a book called Policy and Politics in Paradox. Not an easy read, but one of the things she talks about very simply that is not hard to understand is she compares two models, what she refers to as the market and the polis. The polis is modeled after the Greek city-state. The market model is really one that says, okay, I go out, I work hard, I earn money, and the more money I can keep in my pocket, the more I can do with it. I can buy a fancier car, I can have the hot tub, I can do this, I can do that. However, at some point in time, people come to the conclusion that there are some benefits when we pool our resources. That's how we got into collecting taxes in the first place. It allowed us to do things that collectively benefited the larger community. So it allowed us, it may be that, gee, I have not needed to use the fire services at all, but I'm glad to contribute to them because I know if I have a fire at my house, I don't want to be out there throwing the bucket of water on it. I need to know that everyone's going to respond. So it is that collective piece that's so important.
I like that. I like that collective community spirit. That was the whole idea to have this very second important show. Really focus on the community spirit, the ethos. I think we've talked about that. You and I forged a pretty nice friendship relationship. We've had a number of conversations together, and it all begins with, I believe in the community.
Right.
And I really do believe, quite frankly, that Bud and Doug and everybody on the municipal side is going to work extraordinarily well with you and your staff, and I look forward to a great future with you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.